Welcome to The Forge Focus, a podcast through The Forge, where we focus on our mission of enhancing manhood through our three pillars of positive imagery, quality fellowship, and service to others. These three pillars were created to help fight toxic masculinity and promote a healthy aspect of manhood. Here we will have personal discussions with men in the community and beyond who exemplify this mission and can share their experiences and perspectives in efforts to make us all just a little better than we were before listening in. I mean, hey, let's face it, we can all learn from each other, right? And now, your host, Ebony McNeil. Prepare to be forged.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of the Forge Forum podcast, where we take our mission of enhancing manhood that we have through the Forge, and we talk to individuals in the community who exemplify what our movement is, and we do it in a one-on-one format versus a large group setting that we do with our monthly forums. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today. He's a counselor at Better View Counseling and Trauma Recovery. He also started his own business as a certified life coach. But not only that, he sits on the board of multiple nonprofit organizations such as New Journey Outreach, the Reading Education Foundation, the Northwest Alumni Foundation, and the Foundation for the Reading Pagoda. This man does a lot in the community. I'm so happy to have him here with us, and he can share his thoughts. Welcome, Joey Miranda. How you doing, man?
Pleasure. Thank you for having me here. And it's Northeast Alumni Association.
What did I say?
You said Northwest.
Well, that's because I came from Northwest. Look. Sorry, home field advantage. You know what I mean? That's where I'm from. I just say that. That was a mistake.
No, but thank you. I'm honored and humbled to be here. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
No problem. So I'm gonna jump right in. Before I go into my questions, tell a little bit about yourself, your journey, how you got to be a life coach, how you started working at Better View, what made you want to get into all of these nonprofits that you do.
Great question. There's I don't know if I have enough time to be able to condense. I'm going to be 53 this year, so I don't know if I can condense all those years into a couple sentences.
Well, you look good for 53, bro.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So, obviously, raised here in Reading, and I'm a graduate of of Reading High, and twice at Albright, once with my bachelor's and then now with my master's in applied psychology. And so currently I sit as one of the bilingual psychotherapists at Better View, where I get to help individuals. We're all broken to some extent, right? So I come and I guide and I offer suggestions, and I'm just there one-on-one with individuals, whether it's children in school-based therapy or people that come to the office. And what I do is I'm just there. I'm there to listen and just offer hope and just better guide them to where they feel comfortable that they can say, okay, I can do this today, right? And then you also talked about life coaching and mentoring. I also do that aside from the Better View. So I have my own, it's called Elevated Pathways 5. And so that's what I do. So I'm busy. I'm very busy. And especially with the nonprofits, like you mentioned before. So
nice. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey. So you're 53, born and raised here in Reading, and you went to Northeast, Reading High, and Albright. So you did your whole education career right on 13th Street.
I did, yeah. So I started off at 13th and Green, and then all the way down to Albright. And so my journey wasn't because I didn't envision myself being in the role that I am today. So I graduated from high school, I worked, and I didn't go to college right away. And it wasn't until, because I graduated in 90, and I didn't go back to school until 2007. So there's a huge gap, right? But I figured that I needed to contribute in a positive way. And the only way I could do that was, okay, I need to go back to school. I needed to educate myself. So my original goal was to be a police officer. So I went to school for criminal justice. Obviously, it didn't take me that path. So then I got into working as a case manager for the county, helping individuals. And that's where my true passion it kicked in at that point, because I realized, wait, for those people that can't really help themselves, I can be their voice, right? And so that just propelled me to just want to do better for the community. And then I noticed that I'm talking to people that just like me, I'm broken, they're broken. And I was like, wait, I can see myself in this capacity, right? And so that's why I decided to get into the therapy part and went back to school. And so now here I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a story right there.
It is, yeah.
It's a good journey. It's a beautiful journey, though.
Yeah.
So I like how you said you can be the voice, etc. So give me a little bit about what you do when you're at Betterview. Are you inpatient? Are you like in the building? Are you in the schools? I know they serve schools a lot.
Yeah.
So where do you do in your normal day there?
So normal day, so I obviously do the school-based therapy, so I am at Antietam. And so anywhere from first grade all the way up to seniors. And so I'm providing school-based therapy for kids there at the schools. I'm also doing the adaptation and transition migrant group therapy to young elementary kids that come from Chile, Peru, Dominican Republic, Mexico. So because they're coming from different countries, right? So they're having a hard time transitioning. So what schools were like for them in their young little age to what it is now is completely different. So there's a lot of behaviors in that sense. So I provide the supports, and obviously, a lot of them don't speak the language, the English language. So I can be that bridge connecting between the school and the students. So that's been a lot of fun, being able to connect with those little kids. So yeah.
So do you think, as you know, at the Forge, one of our 3 pillars is positive imagery,
right?
And do you think that them seeing a Latino man who's helping them, what do you think that means to them?
It's huge. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point. So when I do speak to these young kids, right, and also the kids that I see at Antietam or kids that come into the office and they are Latino, right? And so I'll start speaking to them in Spanish and I'll be like, listen, you can do this, right? Because I too was in your shoes. No, I didn't come from a different country, right? My family's from Puerto Rico. So I was born in Massachusetts, right? But still, it was a hard transition for me. And so I tell them, get your education, stick with school, right? Understand the importance of consequences. Bad behaviors, there's consequences, right? So being able to instill that philosophy in them has been huge. It's a huge part of what I do. And so when they can see me, that I am one of them, that I speak their language, and look at the role that I'm in now, they'd be like, oh, wow, okay. Wow, I can do something like that. Oh, so if I stay in school, I can be successful. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you got to stay in school. Just even if it's just high school, just finish off school. Because listen, college isn't for everybody, right?
Right.
But the importance of just getting your high school diploma is huge. And so that's what I try to teach them, is responsibility, being accountable for your own actions, and consequences. And not only respecting themselves, but then also respecting other people. So
nice.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that, and I wanted to ask you, it was a question I was going to ask you anyway. When you had mentioned about school, you just recently got your master's, correct?
I did, yeah. So I graduated from Albright. I was finished in December of last year, but I walked in the ceremony several weeks ago.
So what made you, at 53, decide, well, you didn't make the decision at 53, but what made you decide now to go back and get that master's degree?
Because I knew that, so while the bachelor's was great, I needed to elevate my game. So I needed to position myself where I'm like, okay, if I want to make a bigger impact, how am I going to do that? The master's provided me that platform in order for me to better myself, and it put me in a position where now I can say, being an entrepreneur, working for Betterview, being in schools, because Betterview actually requires you have your master's degree. So having that allowed me the platform that I'm on today, so nice. Which is huge, and a lot of people don't realize that. Unfortunately, the way I see it is bachelor's is more like your associate's degree, right? And then your master's is more like your bachelor's. That was the thinking
the
back
way it
then.
Used to be.
Right, the way it used to be. Now a lot of places are looking for master's degrees. They want that, and they require that. So in order for me to get into, to elevate my game, I needed to go back to school.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's funny. So you said a better view, they require a master's, things like that. When you're around, I've gone to a lot of places and I've known you in the past, but like we've gotten closer recently. But one thing that always made me want to get to know you more is you have a very good reputation. A lot of people, I've been places and your name's come up with recommendation, or I'll go someplace and you'll already be there, or I go. So how do you feel you developed that reputation? Is there something you live by? Because I think that's as impactful as degrees, as things like that, for people to listen to you. So how do you think you developed that reputation?
That's a great question. Again, it would have to come down to ethical leadership, diversity, inclusion, and ethics, right? And so that's what I try to instill. Even being on the nonprofits that I'm on, right? What does that look like? We are all leaders in our own right. And in one of the Forge forums, they talked about what does leadership look like, and it's true. Us men don't view ourselves as leaders enough,
right?
But we are, because we're leaders in our home. We're leaders at work. We can be leaders, positive leaders out in the community, correct? And so for me, being that positive leader, when it comes to the nonprofits that you mentioned that I'm a part of, I try to exude that through what I believe in. And it comes down to ethical leadership, inclusion, diversity, ethics. And I think that's huge. And belonging, because you have to have a sense of belonging too.
When you say belonging, what do you mean by that? Because,
for example, for me, when I first came on to the Foundation for the Reading Pagoda, right, and they asked me to be a part of this, I didn't feel like I belonged. I'm like, why me, right? Here I am. In my eyes, I'm like, okay, what do I have to contribute, right? But I have a lot to contribute because I'm from Reading, right? Yes. I grew up from 13th and Green all the way to Albright, right? I've walked the neighborhoods. I know that, right? So I'm like, wait, I do belong. So when you have a sense of belonging, it changes your posture. It changes your mentality for the better. And you're like, wait, I can contribute. And your mindset changes automatically when you say, you know what, I belong here.
Helps get rid of that whole imposter syndrome that a lot of us men go through. Absolutely. I agree with that. It's almost like you have to validate yourself sometimes.
Correct.
Because the world's trying to invalidate you in several ways. So that's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, because a lot of times, and I use this in practice, we don't like the shadow. We don't like our own image in a mirror. And I tell a lot of my clients, you don't like, when you're walking by the mirror, you don't look at yourself, really look at yourself in the mirror, because you don't like the reflection. But you belong here. You deserve things in life, right? You got to work hard for it. Correct? So what do you got to do to change the image that you see in the mirror? If you don't like yourself in the mirror, what is it about yourself that you don't like? Change that. Change that.
That is real.
Right?
It's simple, but it's not easy to do.
It's the easiest thing to say, but the hardest thing to do.
Agreed.
So that's the philosophy that I try to live by, and that's what I tell every single person that I talk to. It doesn't matter if you're in therapy or if I'm life coaching and mentoring or we're just hanging out, smoking a cigar or whatever. That's what I say. If you don't like the image, change it. Change where you eat. Meaning, you want to be around positive people, then be around positive people. Because there's a lot of people out here in this world, as you know, that hate. They hate on how you dress. They hate on how you speak, what you eat, where you go, who you hang out with, right? Those are negative people. They're there to bring you down. They're not there to be that pillar to say, you got this, right? So if you want to be successful, I want to eat at that table. I want to eat where those people are at. Why? Because they're going to give me information. They're going to feed into me from a positive perspective. And that's a choice. That's a choice that we have. So
very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Cool. So I could listen to you talk about this all day. But when you went and decided to be a life coach, what made you make that decision? Because right now it seems like, there's a million positivity moguls. There's self-improvement everywhere you look. what made you decide that, you know what, this is for me? I want to go help people be better. What made you decide that?
That's another good question. And the thing is so with therapy, so they're two different things, therapy and then obviously life coaching and mentoring. Therapy talks about, and we focus on what are the problems that you had in the past and how is that negatively impacting you today, such as depression and anxiety, right? Just to give you two examples. With the life coaching and mentoring, you're aspiring to be better, right? So you're looking at the glass half full, but you're running into that brick wall. How do I, if you, for example, you want to get a different job, right? Or you want to ask your boss for a promotion, right? What does that look like? What's stopping you from doing that, right? So it's mentoring is, yes, you can do this. Why? Because you can do this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's having that positive mindset, and we don't have enough of that. And what I bring and what got me is, it's like I need to focus on the positive, right? I look at the glass half full every single time, right? And so I want to focus on that as opposed to the negative all the time. So, and obviously I'm bilingual, and so those services, because there's a lot of people in this, I believe, in this county, in this world, that could use a life coach and mentor.
Nice.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I love hearing that, and I want to tie in with the counseling as well, because I want to know, what do you encounter when you're going to these schools? What are some of the traumatic things and some of the issues you see with the young people in the school, especially our young men, and some guidance that you think we should be offering them? So that's what we're going to talk about next. When you do go into the schools, you're going out, you're speaking to the children who need some sort of trauma recovery or a counseling service. What are you coming across as being a consistent theme?
Lack of that strong family bond. What I see is children who are coming from, obviously, a broken home, right? Is what I see a lot of. What I encounter is, well, I have mommy, but I don't have daddy, right? Or daddy's around, but daddy doesn't do this, or mommy doesn't do that. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I run into a lot. And also the fact that these kids feel like they're not being heard. These kids are not being heard today. So if they have a problem, they're afraid to go to mom and dad with their problems. I always say to them, do you talk to your parents about, no, I'd rather talk to the counselor. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that is what I encounter a lot. Or the kids are being shipped off, someplace else, and the family doesn't eat together at a table, right? Their parents are too busy doing something else, and then the kids are kind of left to fend for themselves. I get a lot of that, and that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking, because I didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up with having a mom and then a dad together sitting at a table. I didn't have that. Right. Okay. My mom provided the best that she could. Right. And so I'm fortunate and blessed that I had that. Okay. These kids don't have that. And that is where I make the connections. Like, listen, I get it. I've been there. Right. So that's one of the components that lacks today with these kids. And also accountability. These kids, amazing kids, but then the behaviors, there's consequences for that too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is disheartening as well. They just want to be heard too, and they're not being heard.
And what makes it sad is, one thing we do talk about the Forge is the impact of fathers.
Yeah.
And you seem to be experiencing, unfortunately, what the impact is if the father either isn't there, isn't doing right, isn't engaged, stuff like that. Your focus, you're hearing this from both young men and young women.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you too, I'm going to get off of that topic, but how do you find the time and the drive to do what you're doing? Reason I'm asking, again, 4 nonprofits, your own business, and you have a full-time job.
Yeah.
That job comes with a load, because when you're hearing all these other people and you're helping, it's a load on you too. And if I'm correct, you are recently married.
Got married in August 25th of last year, so we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary soon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Congratulations on that, bro.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that. But how? How does that work? How did your wife, your now wife, handle everything that's going on?
Patient. She was patient with me. When I started off like early in my schooling, she was I wanted to quit. I couldn't handle it. I was like, this is too much. And
that sounds crazy because you're like super positive. So
and she says to me, she goes, okay, so if you want to quit, all right, so that new laptop that we just got is going back. Cool. That new bag that you just got for that laptop is going back. You're working a second job. And so she gave me a swift kick in the ass. And I was just like, wow, okay, all right. That's what I needed. So she grabbed that 2x4 and hit me upside the head and be like, no, this is what you're going to do.
So it was more of was it in the form of like a pep talk, or was it like, you ain't got no options, here's what's about to happen?
Pretty much, it was a stern pep talk.
Okay, good way to put it. It was a stern
pep talk.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
Do you feel she's one of the main reasons you could make it through? Is her support?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You need somebody behind you, giving you that support that you feel that maybe you don't feel like you need, but you do need. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she gave me that.
And I know you're a man of faith, and you're very proud of that.
Yes.
Tell me how that helped you through this whole journey.
I realize sometimes I fall on bended knees. I'm like, I can't do this. And I look up and I'm like, okay, all right, I got this. Give me the strength. Give me the patience, and finds a way to do it. And he's put me through it. He got me through this far. He will continue to provide.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So I had just heard another speaker an event, and one thing they mentioned is the imagery that's of men out in the community right now. Right. What society's showing us we should be.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I'm sweating a little bit. It's hot in here.
Oh, it's all good. A lot of pressure. Yeah, exactly. You working right now. That's why.
Oh my God, I'm working. It's like I'm sweating tough here, but it's all good.
You know, when they say let them cook, you're cooking. But so when you think of what you're seeing, as far as the masculinity that's out in today's society and how it's affecting those kids you're talking to, give me some insight on your perspective on. We all have a different perspective on masculinity right now. Correct. And what it means, whether you're old school, new school, you want to go all the way one way, all the way the other. Give me your perspective on what's happening with masculinity right now and what you do to maintain your manhood, but also how you see it's affecting these kids. So it's a 3-part question.
I think I could probably sum it up as there's this machismo, right?
Okay.
And so from a negative, I'm talking about a negative now, and then I'll spin it to a positive.
Okay.
That we're too afraid to open up. We're not intentional, we're not transparent, and we're not vulnerable. Lack thereof, right? And so when you have these kids or men, right, they're afraid to open up. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. No, I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to shed a tear, right? Why not? You have to. And when you're not that way, especially with your kids are feeding off of that. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we need to change that perspective. We need to change the narrative. And we need to say, you know what? It's okay to shed a tear. It's okay to have those deep conversations. It's okay to be vulnerable and intentional with the conversations that the men are having with their children, because we need that. Because if not, these kids are going to get it elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
They're gonna get that knowledge elsewhere. It may not come from a good place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we need to do a better job. Us men need to do a better job, especially with our children, especially with the young men that we have in our society that are in our households today.
Let me ask you the reverse flip of that with where does it stop? And here's what I'm asking for. Like you said, it's okay to shed a tear. I tell my sons all the time, hey, it's okay to cry, but let's talk about why you're crying. Are you crying for this reason, or this reason? Take the same scenario, because it could be for all 3 reasons. Right. But where do you think as a society when you're dealing with children, I always feel like there's it's a tightrope, because you want them to be vulnerable. You want them to feel okay to speak. You want them to be able to share their opinions, their thoughts, their feelings.
Right.
But you also, there are positives to old school manhood as well.
There's absolutely.
You have to be able to handle things. You don't want to let all your emotions dictate every action you have.
Correct.
So when you think about it that way, what are your opinions on that? Like, where is the line at? How do you handle that as a man? And again, when you're talking to the kids, are you seeing that they're either getting one extreme or the other?
That's a really, really tough question there. I would have to probably say there's that fine line, right? Mm-hmm. There's a really fine line. The way I grew up, right, I grew up, it was hard, right? I got that stern butt whooping from my father when I grew up, right? And there's that mindset that we lack that today, right? And then you have these kids, you can't touch me, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. There's a fine line.
Yes.
And you got to be able to manage that. And so it's having those positive talks. And again, it comes down to consequences, right? Do the kids often listen? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Right.
But that would have to probably depend on the father, what it is, how they view it, right? Because if you're going to say, go ahead, you can do what you want to do they take it to the extreme? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
But again, it boils down to having those conversations at the table, right? Sitting down one-on-one with your kids saying, okay, what is going on in your life? Why is it that you're acting this way? And it's okay, like you said, with your kids, you're very intentional and you're very transparent with your kids.
Yeah.
We need to be more like that today, in my opinion, and my professional opinion as well. Okay. We need to be more like that. Why? Because kids need to hear that. Because they're getting too much off of this.
They're getting everything off of that.
They're getting a lot off of this. So, dads that are out there, be real with your kids. Have those tough conversations with your kids and say, you know what? It's not what you hear. It's not what you're getting on your cell phone. I'm telling you because this is my experience, right?
Right.
You got to be intentional. You have to be transparent, and you got to be vulnerable. It boils down to those three things. You have to be, because if not, it's gonna get worse. Does that make sense?
Makes great sense. I think back. I have 4 sons, and by no means am I a perfect dad. None. Zero.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing
as a perfect dad.
And there's things I kick myself in the butt that I did or said throughout the years, etc. But I feel similar. Like you said, you had that stern dad back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And this is by no means a diss on my dad, because I think I had a great dad. But old school, especially minority men, I guess you could say all men, but my experience has been minority men were very, for lack of a better word, we've all seen the movie Fences with Denzel.
Oh yeah.
And me and a lot of my friends, when we all saw that, one of the first things we did was like, yo, that's real. And that was even farther back, but you could see the translation, how it came down.
Oh yeah.
My dad it's funny because he was a very loving man, and as I got older, I realized it, but he wasn't a very expressive man of his love. And
neither was my dad.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I remember one time my dad, he wasn't materialistic at all, but it was funny because he would do things to let me know he support me, but not do them verbally or words of affirmation. It would be like I was in school. I think I got my first apartment, and as a gift, he had always talked to me about knowledge. He liked to read, he liked to learn things, he liked to debate. And I remember he bought me, and this is when they very first came out, the Gateway computers, the big joint with the spotted box.
Monitor. Yeah.
And I remember in my head, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I know that in his head, he was like, I'm showing you the value of your education, that I value you. I want to give you something useful versus just wasting money. Right. I remember we bought, I don't know if who did it, my mom or my dad. Sorry, Mom, if it was you. But I remember when they invested the money in the whole Encyclopedia Britannica set with the marble holder and everything for our living room. All these encyclopedias. Hundreds of dollars. But I wouldn't be able to get Jordans. But it's because he showed me that what he wanted to give me was value.
As opposed to the Jordans. Right. Who you at that time thought was valuable.
Correct. Well, that's what I thought was valuable, even though they were only $60 now for the same one at $400. But what I say that to say is he didn't really express it, though. And I actually can tell you, I never questioned if he loved me. But I can also tell you, I think I've only heard it 3 times. And one was literally the very last thing he said to me. And it was unbeknownst, at least to me, that was the last thing he was going to say. I went to visit him. He was very ill. I sat with him in the evening. We chatted, talked. I almost didn't even go that night. So I'm extremely happy I did. And we were talking. And, you know, gave him a hug, whatever. He was very ill. And I remember him saying, I got up to walk out the room. And because we just never said it. Right. I think I said it first the time. Gave him a hug. I said, all right, Dad, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. He's like, all right. And he took 3 steps. And he goes, I love you. Okay. So I went downstairs, talked to my mom a little bit, and I left. The next morning, me and the whole family were supposed to go over, but he had died. In the morning. Like, literally, we were calling my mom to say, hey, we're on the way. And she was calling me at the same time, screaming. So it's weird. And I say that to say, you know, I took everything from him and try to make it mine. So I am very expressive with love. To the point, like my sons, especially the youngest one, he will tell you, if you didn't say I love you walking out the door to another brother, if the brothers leave, if a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old or they're leaving and he says I love you and they don't say it back, he'll yell it again. Like, you heard me. I love you. Because I want that in my house. I want that never be questioned. But I also find myself teetering, because, you know, the Forge is all about vulnerability and men expressing themselves. Correct. But it's crazy because I still find myself frustrated if there's tears. Now, part of it is I probably think I know too much and I try to equate the tears differently. It's 4 boys. They have close grandmoms. I also know they used to cry to get their own way. But in the same breath, I don't want them to feel that they can't if it's real.
Great. So, and you're saying that, and in my mind, I'm thinking, like right now, my father didn't really say I loved you when I was growing up either. It's only been after. Right? It's only been now that he's starting to say, hey, I love you. But why are you saying I love you? Is it because you realize that you messed up when I was a young child? Or is it because for a different reason, right? And I say this to all the dads out there. Say it. Why? Because your kids need to hear it.
Yes.
And when you say it from a place of love, your kids will know and they'll feel that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
And then they will then reciprocate. Because if not, they're going to find that love. Because they want to hear it. They want to hear it. They're going to find that someplace else. Agreed. And do you want them to find that love someplace else? Or do you want it to be coming from you and in the home? And us men do not say it enough, especially to the kids.
Agreed.
And we need to be, again, more intentional, more transparent, and vulnerable. And we need to be that, because if we're not truthful to ourselves, how are we going to be truthful to our own children?
Agreed. And it's not even just the I love you. It's the vulnerability. It's the letting them know that you're human and so are they.
That's right.
I ain't gonna lie, one of the hardest things I ever did. And then the second I did it, though, it was one of the best feelings I ever had when I apologized to my one son. We and him were going back and forth, whatever. I spazzed on him. And I had gotten limited information. So based off what I had, I deserved to spaz.
Yeah.
But then after I heard more or less, I actually went up and I remember sitting next to him and said, hey man, look, I want to apologize. One, I shouldn't have went at you like that anyway. But two, I didn't understand, or I forget what it was, but I didn't know this portion.
Correct.
So that means technically it was all good.
Right.
And his response, no, it's okay, it's all good, it's good. I said, actually it's not. And I told him, I said, don't say that. I said, it's not all good. I want you to know that if I'm sorry, I need to be able to come say I'm sorry to you. Yeah, I have authority. I could be like, just because I said so. I said, but no, I'm sorry. And he kept saying, oh, it's all good. But I can tell, one, he was shocked. But two, he needed to see that because I need him. I did it, one, because I wanted to make sure I was okay with myself, but two, I wanted him to see that as a man, you do take accountability and be sorry. So with that being said, I want to say thank you for your time today.
No, thank you.
And everything you just poured out into us and the listeners. Some great tidbits I'm taking with me, and I'm sure the people are taking them with them.
Thank you.
So before we go, real quick, can you just let them know how they can contact you? Your with the Elevated Pathways, everything. Let them know how they can reach you, follow you on social media, etc.
Yeah. So with Elevated Pathways, it's elevatedpathways 5.com. It is life coaching and mentoring. 610-401-5994, and then obviously for the psychotherapy, it's with Better View Counseling and Trauma Recovery. So, but I thank you so much, and it's been an honor. Sorry if I sweat a little bit here today, but
told you was cooking.
I was cooking today, but no, it was a pleasure. I'm honored and humbled to be here. So thank you so much.
Definitely, man. We appreciate your time.
Yes,
I'm sure we're gonna have you back for some more from Nord Nuggets to get dropped.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you too.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Later. Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed this last episode. If you have, please check back and check our previous episodes. Also, make sure you watch it, make sure you like it, and most importantly, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Here at The Forge Focus, we just want to make sure that we're sending out positive vibes and great information from men in the community who can affect it and affect society as a whole. So again, please stay tuned. We got some more great things coming up for you. Prepare to be forged.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and, more importantly, learned something that can affect your perspective on yourself and manhood as a whole. If you have found the value that we expect that you did, we encourage you to hit the like and subscribe button and share this video. Spread the word and tell anyone in your life who can benefit. We'll see you on the next episode. Prepare to be forged.